The Sound of Music is a 1965 movie filmed and set in Salzburg, Austria. Set in 1937, the film is based on the real-life story of the Von Trapp family and is an adaptation of Maria von Trapp's memoir, The Story of the Von Trapp Family Singers, which was published in 1949. 1937 to 1938 was a very tense time for people around the world, especially in Europe during the lead-up to the Second World War. With Austria bordering Nazi Germany, there were real fears that Austria would be annexed and forced to adhere to the Nazi regime. The Sound of Music explores the tension that was forming in Austria among the people that lived there, specifically the Von Trapp family. The 1949 memoir by Maria von Trapp was originally published to help promote her family's singing group following the death of her husband Georg. Shortly after this, Maria sold the rights to her story to German filmmakers, which resulted in two earlier adaptations, the first being Die Trapp Family in 1956 and the sequel, Die Trapp Family in America in 1958, before finally being turned into the American film The Sound of Music in 1965. The Sound of Music is primarily a musical, with scenes of singing and dancing throughout. It also explores themes like romance, seen between Maria and the captain, as well as family and drama, towards the end when the family is pursued by Nazis. The Von Trapp Family Singers were one of the world's best-known concert groups in the era immediately preceding World War II, thus making The Sound of Music the highest-grossing film at the time of its release. The film had its opening premiere on March 2, 1965 at the Rivoli Theatre in New York City, but initial reviews were mixed. Some reviews criticized the film's romantic nonsense and sentiment, and the children's artificial roles, while others described the film as 3 hours of visual and vocal brilliance. In the film, Julie Andrews plays the role of Maria, a tomboyish postulant at an Austrian abbey who becomes a governess in the home of a widowed naval captain with 7 children, and brings a new love of life and music into the home. Throughout the film, there are subtle hints of the family's opposition towards the Nazi regime and their extreme patriotism towards their home country of Austria. Towards the end, the captain gets harassed more and more about joining the Nazi military. He is totally opposed to the idea but fears for what would happen to his family if he refused, so the captain tells his family that they must leave Austria immediately and hike over the Alps to safety in Switzerland. The main characters include Maria and Georg von Trapp and their 7 children, Liesl, Friedrich, Louisa, Kurt, Brigitte, Martha and Gretel. In the movie, Maria is seen as free-spirited, youthful, enthusiastic, kind and imaginative. On the other hand, the captain, Georg von Trapp, is first seen as cold and distant, but gradually warms up by the end as he falls in love with Maria. The names and genders of the children were all changed, and the relationships between characters, especially Maria and Georg, were portrayed very differently to how they were in real life. Firstly, the real Georg von Trapp was born in 1880, while Maria was born in 1905, so at the time that they were married, he was 46, when she was just 21. The film inaccurately portrayed them as relatively the same age. In regards to the children, names were changed to make the characters more relatable, and genders were tampered with to suit the plot. Some articles claim the movie is inaccurate because there were actually 10 Von Trapp children touring in the 1940s. Although it is true there were 3 more Von Trapp children born, these events took place after the end of the movie, meaning the amount of children shown in the film is still accurate as it ends before that. The 7 children are only slightly changed around for the sake of the plot. The oldest Von Trapp child, Rupert, was portrayed by Friedrich, who was the second oldest in the movie. Agathe, the second oldest in real life, was portrayed by Liesl, who played the oldest. Maria, the third oldest, was portrayed by Louisa, Werner by Kurt, Hedwig by Brigitte, Joanna by Martha, and Martina, the youngest, was portrayed by Gretel. The seemingly money and fame-obsessed music director, Max Detweiler, or Uncle Max to the children, was actually fictional. In real life, the Von Trapp's priest, Reverend Franz Wesner, was their music director and even went to America with them and is seen in many family photos. The Von Trapp's resistant stance towards the Nazis was quite well portrayed in the movie, apart from the way they wanted to recruit Georg. Georg was well portrayed in terms of his military experience as a decorated naval commander and was sought after by the German army to command a naval base for the impending war. Georg and his family were very much against the regime and refused to hang the Nazi flag in real life, as well as in the film in the scene when Georg and Maria returned from their honeymoon. This scene depicts a very accurate representation of Georg's views towards the Nazi regime. However, the way the Nazis tried to recruit him was different. Instead of approaching him with forceful threats as portrayed in the film, the Nazis actually enticed the family with promises of greater fame for the singing group and higher positions for the children when they were older. For example, the oldest, Rupert, was offered a job in the medical field, which he did not take, knowing it would have been taken from a Jewish doctor. Although the portrayal of the characters in The Sound of Music was mostly untrue, it is true that the family as a whole was lively and musical. The stark difference between Georg's personality at the start and end of the movie, due to the arrival of Maria, helps accentuate the storyline, even though this isn't how he was in real life. Contrary to the movie, the Von Trapps did not escape Austria through the Alps to Switzerland. Salzburg is actually on the other side of Austria and doesn't even border Switzerland. After Austria was annexed by the Nazis in 1938, the Von Trapps knew their stance would not be tolerated. Although the family were sought after, the real Von Trapps didn't try to sneak out of Austria in the night. In fact, Maria's stepdaughter, also called Maria Von Trapp, said, "We did tell people that we were going to America to sing, and we did not climb over mountains with all our heavy suitcases and instruments. We left by train, pretending nothing." By June, the Von Trapp family and their musical director were in Italy, then later travelled to London and finally New York by the start of the war in 1939. This was relatively easy for them because Georg was born in Zadar, modern-day Croatia, which became part of Italy in 1920, therefore making Georg and the rest of the Von Trapps Italian citizens. Maria's story was very loosely based off the real Maria Von Trapp. It is true she was a nun and was sent to be a governess in 1926, not 1937 as portrayed in the film. She was sent to tutor one child, also called Maria, who was recovering from scarlet fever. Her marriage to Georg was not one out of love, but out of necessity. Unlike the film, Maria later states in her biography, "I really and truly was not in love. I liked him, but I didn't love him. However, I love the children, so in a way I really married the children." Maria married Georg as a way to gain stability, and Georg saw it as a way to give his children a mother. Maria does later state that she learned to love him more than I have ever loved more before or after. After their wedding in 1927, not 1938 as portrayed in the film, the Von Trapps lived in Austria for 11 years before leaving for Italy. This timeline is completely skipped in order to keep the storyline moving, because in the movie they get married in 1938 and leave straight after their honeymoon in September that same year. The inaccuracies seen in The Sound of Music were mostly small details that were changed from the original to enhance the story for the audience. The goal for the movie was not to be historically accurate, but to be entertaining.